Saturday, April 27th, 2013, and this is segment 4. Please welcome Sandie Sedgbeer.
Welcome back to the Virtual Light broadcast. 8 months ago, the Virtual Light broadcast was privileged to be chosen by our next guest as the launch pad for a cutting-edge experiment that could forever change the way people perceive and approach the subjects of autism and energetically sensitive kids. Stanford University Professor Emeritus, Fellow to the American Academy for the Advancement of Science, and featured physicist in the movie What the Bleep, Professor William Tiller, and former pediatric speech-language pathologist, author, speaker, and autism pioneer Suzy Miller joined forces to launch the Autism Intention Experiment. Today, I'm delighted that they're joining us to give us some of the feedback that they've been receiving from parents of children involved in this particular experiment. Suzy, Bill, welcome to the Virtual Light broadcast.
Thank you.
Bill, if I could start with you. You're a pioneer in the field of intention and consciousness. You're the author of 4 books and hundreds of peer-reviewed papers. You've spent 4 decades pursuing serious experimental and theoretical study in the field of psychoenergetics with a special focus on the power of coherent intention to change physical reality.
Sounds good.
It does sound very good. I'm curious to know, how are you broadcasting an intention to people who are thousands of miles away?
Well, I don't know enough about it to be precise. The steps in the process were to originally create, well, the first step was to test whether in today's world we could intend and change the properties of materials, properties of spaces, etc. Because Descartes in 1600, in order to be able to clearly separate between science and religion, proposed, he had a hypothesis that no human qualities of consciousness, intention, emotion, mind, or spirit could significantly influence a well-designed target experiment in physical reality. Now, the problem in today's world, although this has never been tested, was very useful at the time because we were moving away from the theocratic paradigm. But this was a century later than the beginning of that, and still people had great difficulty separating between the two. His hypothesis was a good one at the time, but orthodox science and orthodox medicine still unconsciously hold that today in today's world. Because if things don't match the prevailing paradigm of orthodox science, which is medicine takes after science. So it's, they have swept many, 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 many things for the last century and a half under the rug because they don't, the data doesn't agree with orthodox science.
But you've been brave enough to take that a little bit head on, haven't you? You created an intention device.
Yes.
And you are utilizing that device to broadcast this intention.
Yes, so that was a learning process. First was the step of creating a device that you could imprint, a simple electrical device from a deep meditative state. And that device could be used to change the properties of materials. That is, you make your intention statement is specific to a particular experiment that you want to do and see the effect of intention on it. And we picked 4 experiments. I won't go into details, but they was water, pH up, pH down, liver enzyme, increase the chemical activity of it, and then a living system, fruit fly larvae, to increase the energy storage molecule in the cells versus their chemical precursor. And then, because of that, the fruit fly larvae were more physically fit, and we reduced, the intention was therefore reduce the larval development time to the adult fly stage. The proof in the pudding was that the larvae took 25% less time to become fully developed. So that was the start, and it proved unequivocally that the hypothesis of Descartes in today's world is very, very wrong.
So,
Okay.
Suzy, if I could come to you, you're the founder of the Awesomeism Certified Practitioners Program, and you've got, 60 practitioners in 11 countries? Before this experiment was even officially launched, you were getting reports from some of those parents and practitioners whose children were enrolled in this, that things were happening.
Yeah,
Tell us
absolutely.
a little bit about that.
It's almost like from the beginning, from the time that Bill and I conceived of this, that there were some things already changing. But the real evidence showed up when Bill and I had a conversation with some of the people who were going to participate in the experiment or had an interest in it. And some of those were my certified practitioners. And as we were just having the conversation on the call, they were literally watching their children have make changes. Changes were occurring. So in one case, the mother said, I'm sitting here on the phone listening to you all talk, and my son is all of a sudden playing, enjoying himself, keeping himself occupied, whereas in the past he may not have been able to do that. Another parent called back afterwards and said, I could notice the presence change just with the idea, just with the concept being discussed. So, it was already being broadcast to a certain extent without it being broadcast.
Bill,
It's not necessarily in the device. It's in the cosmos.
Yes, but one day after officially launching this, a child in Australia started speaking.
Exactly.
Who had not spoken before, and within a month that child had 20 words. So what are the implications for this?
Well, the implications is that this is a coupling, I think, between our level of reality, distance, time, and the unseen in higher dimensions, because that's where the power really comes from. But this particular odd device the data shows that we've done 3 experiments, one depression, anxiety with great success. We broadcast to a laboratory in Berlin, Germany. The change was the changing the pH. The change was occurring a month before we switched on the device. It was have a conversation, what we're going to do, imprint an intention, take the device into the shed where is the broadcast station, turn it on. Basically, the shed becomes conditioned to a higher level of reality, and the part of the intention is to simultaneously broadcast to Berlin, in that case, the pH that was designed to change in the shed. So, in essence, it lifts the reality within that space, and simultaneously it seems to go everywhere in the world. It's not electricity, it's not electromagnetism, it's another energy I call a subtle energy. We don't have the tools to study it a lot yet, but we've got some beginning tools. But it is happening, and joyfully it is affecting the kids and the parents. We have two broadcasts, one for the parents and one for the kids, because they have different needs. And wonderfully, both members of the human family seem to be much more joyful.
And even some of the siblings that aren't diagnosed and aren't enrolled in the experiment are experiencing benefits as well.
Yeah, and it's because, you see, it goes from the device, which is imprinted, to the space, the room where the device is, broadcast by a mechanism, a different mechanism in electromagnetism around the world, into that home, and that information fills the home, and all members in that particular house eventually are affected one way, beneficially, or the other, but the name and address that we use to broadcast to, that gets a larger effect for that individual, because it's directed to them. So there's intelligence in this.
And it's also scientifically controlled. I mean, you have, you've got statisticians working on this as well, haven't you?
We're gathering data.
Yeah. Suzy, you have been, for the past, 8 years, you wrote your book, Awesomeism, A New Way to Understand the diagnosis of autism. You've been in touch with the collective consciousness of these children for many years, and they have been telling you that this is possible, and that after 2012 it would become apparent. What are these kids, this collective consciousness, saying to you now?
They're excited. Yeah, something is happening. Yeah, I have heard about this for a long time. They actually told me that there would be somebody who would come along that would help to support integration on a much broader scale, to be looking out for him. And the interesting... He's right here. I found him. I think the other part, too, that was interesting is the kids have always said that integration occurs according to the child's soul purpose. And so one of the things that I was to be looking for as I heard about, as I was looking for this person who was supposed to be able to do this on a much grander scale, was this whole concept around according to the child's soul purpose. And so when we looked at the intention, when Bill actually presented me with the intention statement, it was right in the intention statement that all integration occurs according to the child's soul's purpose, and it was just for this lifetime. So it was just it was a big confirmation that we were all on the right track. It was nice.
You know, you sent me about 4 or 5 pages of responses from parents, which far too long to read, but I mean some of them include kids talking who haven't been talking before, you know, kids interacting, much more eye contact, constant eye contact, teachers saying that children have changed. One parent who said that she didn't even know that her son was aware, but when they gave him a board to communicate with, not only was he aware of everything, but he could spell, he could write, he knew all the words, and this has completely surprised the parents. I mean, that kind of information, that kind of feedback must make you both feel amazing.
Good on the heart.
Good on the heart.
Yeah.
Woo-wee!
And, you know, here we have something that I personally have a great desire for, which is to bring together, you know, what used to be called the woo-woo with the science and show that, you know, there's nothing woo-woo about any of it.
No, it's just new physics.
New physics.
New paradigm ahead for the universe.
Yeah.
And beyond imagining it, of course, is possible, which, of course, Story was talking about earlier.
But you and your wife, Jean, you know, you've been engaged in deep meditation. You've been doing this work, you know, several decades.
Almost.
Yeah. What, you know, you must have been a lone voice in the wilderness out there, especially, you know, amongst the scientific community for a long time. How does it make you feel?
It was challenging.
But now?
Now, I'm pleased. We're not there yet, but it'll be very nice when the orthodox science community get off the pot and look at the data. That's all they have to do, is just look at the data. But that's challenging for them, and they're not ready to do that. Maybe some are, but not many. And the universities also, etc. So, but it will change. I've always known it will change. To me, we're all spirits having a physical experience as we ride the river of life together, and our spiritual parents dressed us in these bio-body suits and put us in this playpen in order to grow in coherence, in order to develop our gifts of intentionality, and in order to eventually become co-creators with our spiritual parents, which probably means in the future, somewhere along our development, we will co-create planets and stars and other interesting things. Yeah.
Suzy.
But it's becoming a creator, and these experiments are showing aspects of that creation, that creative ability, and we are flexing our muscles and learning. And in learning that, we are also developing new science.
Yes, and learning that, you know, the impossible is very possible. Very
possible. You know, miracles, things used to be called miracles, they will eventually be called another aspect of science. And ultimately, I wrote a paper called Towards the Union of Logos and Mythos. We are both of those things. And that union is a wonderful one to look forward to, and it will happen.
Suzy, who's eligible to participate in this trial? Does it have to be an official diagnosis?
In the first round of this experiment, we did have it be officially diagnosed. They had to have a formal educational and/or medical diagnosis of autism. In this round, we're giving people the option of that and/or children who present with significant characteristics of autism, because there are a lot of children out there who, for one reason or another, their parents either do not want them to have that diagnosis because the limitations that it might present, and or they would like a diagnosis, but it's taking them forever to get that diagnosis. So we don't want them to be limited in participating, because quite frankly, if all things go well, by the time they would have gotten the diagnosis anyway, there will not be a diagnosis to be had.
Exactly, yeah. So what is the cost of participation?
It is, $700 a year, give or take.
Which is nothing.
We broadcast
Nothing.
for a year.
Yeah, we broadcast for a year, so it's $700 for the year. It's broken down into either quarterly or biannual payments. And it's really, when you look at what families pay for treatment for autism, the results that are gained, it just so inexpensive. It's not even funny. I'm still amazed that we can do it like this.
Well, one of the most important things to look forward to, I mean, we know that Medicare is going to kill most nations if we don't do something about it. If this technique, as it gets developed and the engineering becomes better and better, huge reduction in cost for a nation to treat serious illnesses of one sort or another. Well, there are challenges, and this is something that the world has to face, or the nation has to face. Truth is, ultimately.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I know that you also have a program that people can support this by donating money for other families who cannot afford to enroll their children to do that. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, actually, in the first round of the Autism Intention Experiment, we opened it up for donations, and we did receive quite a few nice donations. It was wonderful. And just nice to see that people out there who maybe not even have children diagnosed with autism were interested in doing that. And they were able to go just through the website. They could create a tax-deductible donation by writing a check to it, and they can find out all of that on the website.
Now, we've discussed what some of the children are experiencing. What are you hearing from the parents that they themselves are experiencing?
I think that's the most important piece in some ways, because, you know, the amount of stress that these families go through, just getting the diagnosis, you know, the behaviors, the characteristics, it's not an easy existence. And so a lot of them are experiencing this natural de-stressing. Some of them, we had one mother that I heard from, she's actually very big in the autism community, and she said, all of a sudden I'm not interested in having a conversation about autism anymore. She said, I'm not interested in putting myself into that category in many ways. You know, what might that be about, kind of thing. And again, when you've been so identified as a particular type of parent doing a particular kind of thing, and then all of a sudden the stressors of that are wiped away, you can begin to think of yourself as just a parent, or, you know, not just a parent, but not as a parent of children diagnosed with autism.
They're a joyful, interacting human being with a child that is doing likewise, and one sees that they really are a symbiotic system. So.
It must be incredibly gratifying. You must be on a constant high getting these kinds of results. I'm curious, you know, the Global Coherence Initiative, they are organising these kind of intention experiments. They're not using any devices. I'm wondering, what else could you broadcast? I mean, what else could you change?
We did broadcast for depression and anxiety, basically from a site in Missouri to a group of people largely in the center of Pennsylvania and some outliers in Guelph, Canada. Basically 500 people signed up for that, and After 8 months, we did zone tests and state trait anxiety tests. P-value is better than 0.001, so this is remarkable results after 8 months. So in our first experiment here, we've done 44 parents and 44 children with different intentions for the two, but broadcast simultaneously. And we're, for the new program, which we hope will start in July, we would be happy to have 200 parents and 200 children as the next step. And then the step after that, there's 1,000 is within reach, perhaps. Now, the engineering has to shift a little bit because as the numbers of people being simultaneously broadcast to go up, then it's like the way to look at it is you get each one, the names and addresses are scrolled through the computer, and so a person's name comes up, and then the system is broadcasting to them, in our present one, 1.36 minutes in an hour. An hour is a complete rotation for the 44, etc. So it's that kind of thing. So it's like a burp, time, burp, etc. But all of the names and addresses, they get addressed, and there's that beam that's going out everywhere gets to them wherever they are in the world, it seems. And I'm delighted technologically to realize that this can happen. And perhaps if we had sites, as we will in future on different planets, we probably could get to them too.
You will get to them.
Dastardly plot. Are you both experiencing the benefits yourself? I mean, apart from what you're hearing and the joy from that, have you noticed anything happening with yourselves?
I think we're just, I don't know, I won't speak for you, but I have a feeling that this is a nice high.
A legal one.
A legal one.
Yes. Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, no, I definitely have had a few experiences. Just the only way I could describe them, and to keep it really brief, is just different dimensional experiencing existing in the physical. So I've had 4 of those now that have been pretty memorable. And as I look at it, it's all been during the time that I've been associated with him. So.
Well, then on our side, certainly when we sit to imprint, which we do periodically, because the device leaks, engineering is good, but it's not conventional engineering. If you change the device so it works well in space-time, you can't imprint it. So it looks like a broken, scientifically broken device, but it works well in some other domain of nature. And when we imprint now, it always has been joyful. Now it is super joyful during that period.
Now you've developed this unimprinted intention device, and you actually sell them, and I know that people can go to your website, they can read lots of white papers, they can buy that device for themselves.
Pay by PayPal.
But surely the quality of the intention, is the average person skilled enough to be able to imprint their own device?
That is certainly questionable, because and the issue is in the experiments that I've done before, because replicability is important in science, and to people in this country and in Europe, we've always imprinted the device for them to do the experiment, and they run the experiment. I have not been sure that the unseen, that it's a very important step in part for us, that they will treat all people the same way. And it is the essence of all of this, is the unseen as the source. We're a channel, we're important in the process, but as far as the real muscle, it's in the unseen.
Suzy, you wrote something quite profound some time ago. I'm going to read it. You said, as we become the new humans, humanity is going through a process where we are continually being recalibrated to the highest aspect of who we really are. Throughout the world, many are now being called to rediscover and reconnect with the potential and possibilities that have been hidden within them for so long. The time has come for a new community of humans who are not afraid to be and continue to become the fullest expression of themselves. Would you say that these kids, the ones that are being diagnosed with autism, the ones that are having the challenges, the ones on the spectrum, are showing us the new human that we have the potential to become?
Absolutely. These children, I absolutely see them as the new humans, the humans of the new epoch, if you will. And they are functioning beautifully. They're functioning very well in higher dimensional realities. They're just having a little bit of a challenge functioning in the physical domain because of the density of that energy. So as we begin to create a space where they can function, I think we're going to get ready to see some pretty amazing things and probably hear some very amazing things directly from them. So.
Now, you are going to be writing books about this, aren't you?
So he says.
So she says.
Yes. The answer
Or
has
so
to be
you
yes.
say.
I say.
Yes, yes.
I say.
It is a very reasonable thing to do.
Yes, yes. Well, the world needs to hear about this.
Yep.
And I
Well,
really
but
want to...
once our data really starts piling up.
Of course, yeah. You've got to have that data in order to
At the moment,
some
it's
of the
all
skeptics.
anecdotal. But,
yes.
But if it's anything like the depression and anxiety experiment, then it'll be robust, gangbuster data.
I want to thank you both for choosing this show to be the test launch for this, for giving us the scoop, and I hope you'll come back in another year and tell us some of the amazing things that are happening then. Thank you both very, very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good. Good luck, kids.